Greetings, brothers and sisters. Well, things are starting to unravel for JoJo, perhaps. Former top military brass questioned 2020 election results, Biden's health. Of course, this is the New York Post, not being covered by the left-leaning mainstream media. But here is an open letter. It was reported by Politico. More than 120 retired generals and admirals have published an open letter questioning the legitimacy of the 2020 presidential election, as well as President Biden's fitness to be commander-in-chief. That's significant because, it's 120 generals, right? Those are high-ranking people in the military. But this is the headline in the Politico. Disturbing and reckless retired brass spread election lie in attack on Biden and Democrats. And so anybody, there's 124 generals, right? Everybody's supposed to love the military. I mean, hear about it all the time. Military, support the troops, right? And so now you have people who are, not into Joe Biden coming out, questioning the results of the election and talking about how JoJo is obviously breaking down mentally. He's old, which happens when you're old. And he was never a great, he was always a screw up. So you take a guy who was a bumbling screw up and then he's, 78 years old. And so things are going to start happening, and they're happening with JoJo. But when it is, brought to people's attention, it's just, this is how they're going to roll with this thing, that JoJo is the greatest guy ever. He's the greatest president ever, and he can do no wrong. No criticism. This is, this is how the media is going to play this until he starts, drooling his soup down his chin in the middle. And so we'll see how this plays out, but it can't play out well. Dakota Johnson isn't why Ellen DeGeneres' show is ending, but people want to say so. So I remember this. I covered this for some reason. I'm not sure why. It was, anyways, this is what happened.
Happy belated birthday. When was your birthday?
It was October 4th.
October 4th. You turned 30.
I did.
And how was the party? I wasn't invited.
Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited. Last time I was on the show, last year, you gave me a bunch of about not inviting you, but I didn't even know you wanted to be invited.
Well, who doesn't want to be invited to a party?
Well, I didn't even know you liked me.
Of course I like you. You knew I liked you. You've been on the show many times, and don't I show like?
So this got awkward fast, right?
Yeah.
But I did invite you, and you didn't come. So
this time you invited me?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How do you know? I don't think so.
Ask everybody.
This is, Ellen's the weird haircut, right? That's what makes her sort of like a little gremlin troll, right? That's, and the eyes, the funny color eyes. She just, and this was when Ellen was under fire for, people realizing that she was mean. And so this didn't help Ellen.
Ask Jonathan, your producer. Who
Okay.
said you were?
I was
he's
invited?
right there.
Why didn't I go?
I don't know.
Was it? Oh yeah, I had that thing. It was probably in Malibu. That's too far for me to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. No, I think I do remember I was invited. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, but I really didn't remember that until just now. But Tig Notaro performed at your party?
She did.
She did a set?
She did. It was a surprise.
What did she do?
A bunch of funny stuff.
She's hilarious.
She's my favorite comedian. Other than you. Bye.
And so, the reason Ellen is canceled is because they got behind her brand, right? The sheeple woke up to her false branding as the Be Kind lady. Dakota Johnson has done more for society by ending Ellen DeGeneres than most of our faves have in their careers and shows. Everyone say thank you to Dakota Johnson. Congratulations to Dakota Johnson. Not everyone retweeting the Ellen news with pics of Dakota Johnson. Ellen DeGeneres 10, the daytime talk show after 19th season. And so it goes on from there. But the reason Ellen's gone is because they have a brand. Everyone has a brand. Every famous person has a brand. And when their brand collapses, and really you haven't seen, I mean, I knew this for, years. You can, my older videos on this. Back in 2017 when I realized Ellen and Tom Hanks and Will Smith, and especially Tom Hanks, but, Ellen, these people who have the nice guy brand, right? They're she was the be kind lady. And it's just a brand, or it's not true. And then they could sell things. They could push an agenda forward because people trust them. And so, that brand collapsed for Ellen, which is kind of a cool thing. I guess it's, a sign of something. When the sheeple woke up and they were like, hey, Ellen isn't nice, And that was it for Ellen, and she's going to disappear because she is, her brand collapse. Very seldom does that happen in the way it did with Ellen, so, it's at least a sign of something. Alice Cooper vigorously defends Johnny Depp against abuse claims. Alice Cooper. They're in a band called the Hollywood Vampires or something, and they're just together. But if Alice Cooper's is your character witness, it's like Ozzy Osbourne being your character witness. No, he's a good guy. Ozzy says so. Chrissy Teigan apologized to Courtney Stodden. Not a lot of people are lucky enough to be held accountable for all their past BS in front of the entire world. So she starts it off with a victim statement. I'm mortified and sad as who I used to be. I was an insecure, attention-seeking troll. I am ashamed and completely embarrassed at my behavior. But that's nothing compared to how I made Courtney feel. I have worked so hard to give you guys joy. Yeah, well, it's, joy in what way? You're not fun. All right. And be beloved, and the feeling of letting you down is nearly unbearably, truly. These were not my only mistakes, and surely won't be my last as hard as I try. But God, I will try. Oh, come on. Well, any redemption thing is a positive thing, I guess. But this is somebody who went after Trump for being a bully, right? Which I pointed out when this thing happened with Courtney Stodden. I have tried to connect with Courtney privately, but since I publicly fueled all this, I want to also publicly apologize. I'm so sorry, Courtney. I hope you can heal now knowing how deeply sorry I am. And I am so sorry I let you guys down. I will forever work on being better than I was 10 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months ago. Well, she admitted that she was basically an alcoholic and she was drunk tweeting. So I guess maybe she's in a 12-step program or something. Courtney Stodden says she never heard from Chrissy Teigan or her team. And so, perhaps it isn't sincere. So I have this meme back when I used to make, picture videos. And while the middle class blame the poor, I'm going to park my boat in my boat. Right? It's one of my sort of famous economic memes. And then I have all these, pictures and stuff about hoarding. Because all these people that are called hoarders, right? There was a show about hoarders. People just stuff their house full of things, which is something weird to do. And it's, more and more material stuff. And then there's the real hoarders, people who hoard billions of dollars of resources, money and, lands and things. I mean, you think about all the, the 6 castles of the royal family, giant castles. I mean, these places. And then, all the wealth that's hoarded by a very small percentage of the population. And these people have power, material power over everybody. And this should be a psychological condition. Like somebody wanting to own $1 billion worth of resources and lands and things. And they just keep on accumulating more. these corporations and people and countries or whatever it is that just want more and more and more. And this is, a psychological aberration. It's it's not somebody who's mentally healthy. See, there's a thing about being rich that people don't understand, that there's a responsibility that goes along with having a lot of resources. There is a spiritual responsibility. Then there is just a financial responsibility to allow the money and the resources move. They're not supposed to get stagnant, right? Master Chargy, the third master of the heartfulness system, gave this example of rivers where everything needs to flow. That you're not supposed to dam up a river. You're not supposed to, keep it from flowing back to the sea. And so these rivers, which are clean, rivers that run through, all these various rocks and things, and they're always moving. The water is much cleaner than these ponds where the water, builds up and there's no movement and it begins to stink, and, it's not supposed to be in a stagnant state. And this is, a metaphor for hoarding, where people have billions of dollars of resources. Because there's a point where if you're in poverty, if you're, struggling financially, if you never have enough, right, where you have money and it makes your life easier. Like, you can't believe how much easier your life is that you have money to fix problems. Like, you have, you can buy your way out of so many problems that you used to not be able to solve because you didn't have enough money. And so there is a point where money makes your life easier. It frees up all kinds of time and psychological stress that you're having for not having enough. And so that point disappears, though, as you're making more and more money. It disappears when money becomes a hassle, where you're just accumulating more and more things. And you're like, what do I do with these things? You're constantly shopping, whatever it is. And then you get, stuck in a lifestyle. People get a wealthy lifestyle. And now you have to, for the rest of your life, figure a way to retain enough money. And especially if your lifestyle is getting more and more, opulent. And so it's growing. This is what happened to who's that rapper? They did a thing on VH1. MC Hammer. MC Hammer is like a famous example of somebody who, the success dried up. No one wanted to listen to his rap anymore. He didn't have a secondary skill set. And so he was just trying to hold on to his lifestyle. And so it becomes a hassle, right? And the money that you have, it's just a hassle. You're constantly having to figure out what to do with it. And you're worried about it, right? And, should I move it here? Should I do it here? What are you going to do with it, right? Then all the stuff with taxes. And then invariably people hire staff and, they surround themselves with people that they really don't need. When I was in India, one of my, so I was talking to somebody and there was this guy and they said, the guy's really rich. I was over his house and he doesn't even put his own shoes on. Like, he has servants to put on his own shoes. In India, you can afford a lot of servants. Of course, if you watch stuff like Downton Abbey, and they have these, people called valet and, valet, and they have, people that dress them. Like, they have all these fancy outfits, and, it's a crime if they show up to dinner and they have the wrong outfit on. But they have these people that dress them. And, of course, they all came from the royal families, and these, people all came from thugs, right? Their ancestors are thugs, and they're all aware of it. They're trying to get culture, and they try to be fancy, But if you, go into this, the royalty and all their rules of dining, especially, years ago, it sort of has dried up. But a lot of those people lost their castles and their titles and things because they couldn't, they couldn't keep it going. They couldn't keep the lifestyle going. And so if you're becoming a richer person and you don't want people to dress you, and you don't want, you've been poor and you've had crappy vehicles forever. Like, my brother, joked with me one time. We were watching TV, and he said, I like watching these new car commercials so I can find out what my shit box is going to look like in 20 years. And so when you're in poverty and you have the vehicles breaking down all the time and your vehicle isn't dependent and things, So when you get enough money to get a dependable car and fix it, in a timely fashion, when it breaks down, it's just, wow, this is so great, right? This is, it's a big relief. But if you say, all right, then you get more and more money, you're going to get a high performance vehicle, a luxury vehicle, or, multiple vehicles. You hear people like, rappers talking about how many cars they have or whatever it is. And then it becomes a hassle. Like it is, you have a, $100,000 car, whatever, Lamborghini or something, and you park it and people are, looking at you, right? They're going to be envious. So, you're drawing attention to yourself. You park it somewhere and, people are going to dent your door or whatever it is, right? You're driving something the value of your house. And then a lot of these high performance vehicles break down all the time. Like you can't keep them on the road, And so they're no longer dependable. They don't get you just from point A to point B. And now it takes all this energy and effort to maintain the vehicles. And you have multiple vehicles, you're not driving them. They sit around, the batteries die. I mean, it's just, So you show people you have all these cool cars, right? So when you get like more and more money, these people who are wealthy, like I don't want somebody to dress me, and I don't want like all these various fancy outfits and, things where I go to dinner and have to obey all these, rules of etiquette, right? All the different forks you have to use and like all these kind of things. And just people who suck, right? Because most of the people you're going to meet are horrible people, these wealthy people. They're not, fun to be around, and they're, big egos and, jealous and venomous creatures. And so when you understand this, that the richer you get, if you don't want to indulge in basically inhuman behaviors and have, things that really should make you uncomfortable, someone, dressing you and things like this, whatever it is. And then your money and wealth become an entity because you have to, take care of all these things. You have to, do stuff with them. You have to, keep the money flowing in. You got to keep everything moving. You got to, now you have to supervise all these people. And so all these things are going to come with problems. If you have multiple houses, all the houses need upkeep. All the houses need, especially if you're a person traveling with a sort of a wait staff and things like this, all of them need to be, you have to go there and utilize them, and you have to keep them in your consciousness, right? Thousands of, acres of land. So now your money and your wealth and all these things are demanding like 80% of your attention or 90% of your attention, right? That your consciousness and your memory has to be focused on all these various things. And you have to, you have to keep an eye on it, make sure that your business manager isn't taking from you, all these things, check everything. You have to spend all your time just, dealing with this wealth that you've hoarded, and you're not enjoying anything. Like there's a famous teaching in the heartfulness system. It's better to be the friend of the king than the king himself, because the friend of the king gets to indulge and enjoy the king's, wealth and things like this without any of the responsibility. And then there's, the spiritual responsibility of having all this wealth and being in charge of people. And so, it's just a lot of stress. And people who really want that, who want to have all this wealth to hoard, there's something wrong with them psychologically. There's just, they're wired wrong. And you have this generational where they're, generations are trying to retain this wealth and opulence, and none of them are happy because they're psychologically messed up. And they can't give up the wealth because they would never imagine living like most people do. They would want to cook their own meals and go shopping, and, often famous people then too, right? Like royal families or people who are, part of a wealthy dynasty. They stick out. People know who they are and, all these things. The reasons that people want wealth is they want to show to everybody that they're like better than them, that, because of their possessions, because of their titles, whatever. I mean, that's, the royal family and the, not just the royal family, but the whole royal hierarchy out in the world, the dukes and the, the lords, right? People who are on a different level, and they're supposed to be treated on a different level based in their economic privileges. I mean, it's a sickness, and you see this with all this, royal culture around the world. People with a lot of stuff expect that they be, treated better by everybody, and they're showing off their stuff and what they own, and they want to, rub it in everybody's face that they're better than them. The other part to this is, I've talked about this in the past, that there is love in everything. There's God in everything. And people don't have love in their life. They don't have a relationship with God first and foremost, and these wealthy people don't, for a variety of reasons, because they're, going on a different path. They worship wealth and money and, the demons that control it. So they don't have a relationship with God, so they don't feel any love in their hearts from God. The heartfulness meditation, the pranahuti that's given, the transmission, is what everybody craves. Like every soul craves this on the deepest spiritual level. You crave, prana, God's love, the divine energy, the utilization of the divine energy for the transformation of man is what the transmission given the heartfulness system is. It's pure love from the source, right? And divine love nurtures you on a soul level, but also everything's made up of love. So it's like getting a boost of something, your primary energy, right? That just sort of fixes everything in your system, right? Is what nurtures everything in your internal system, physically and emotionally, and all these things. And so if you don't have love from God, you can get it from other people. And that's good. That's, great. But I mean, it's not an infinite source. So you end up draining each other. But if their family members are connected to God, they have a vertical relationship with God, and then they have these horizontal love relationships, they can get the love from God. This is the heartfulness transmission again. It just fills your love bank. Everybody has so much love in their system. And you're born with so much love, and it gets drained by life, right? And so, but if you have a way of replenishing it by connecting to God, so having a vertical relationship with God who fills your love bank, and then you have these horizontal relationships where there's an exchange of love. But when none of that exists, and that's what happens to these really wealthy people, because they're mean-spirited and they have crappy relationships. The relationships are, based in financial and, power decisions and things. And so they don't have loving relationships. They don't have a relationship with God. So they have stuff, right? And there's love energy and stuff, and there's some enthusiasm and emotions and excitement in buying and owning stuff. And so they extract love from that stuff. Like famous people extract love from fame. They don't have love in their lives, but they have fans that worship them, fans that look up to them. And, they get positive energy from their fans, and that's why they build their brand. And, Madam Expiration Date, and these people have such a hard time letting go of their fame because they're extracting love energy from it, because they don't have it from God, and they don't have people that really truly love them in their lives. That's a problem with wealthy, famous people. They end up having, nobody that loves them, right? They're basically alone. But that kind of love from stardom and love from stuff, from material possessions, is of a very low, impure quality. Like it's 80%, grossness, or more like, 95% gross material, and then 5% love. But it's even probably like, 99.9%, material grossness stuff, and like, 0.1% love. And so it's not of a very pure quality. And so they just have to get more and more of it, right? They just need more and more of it to just, extract enough love out of it to feel good inside. And so when they start losing that, and they don't have any other relationships, then it's, they're just these vampires, right? These ghouls walking around looking for love and looking for this positive energy. And sometimes, at some point, a switch is thrown, and they start feeding off the miseries of other people. They become like demonic in this way. We're making other people suffer, making other people have pain, watching other people suffer is where they extract their, energy from. And it's no longer love. It's, negative energy, hate and anger and, jealousy, all the negative emotions and qualities. And so that's where it always ends, where people have become these, creatures that are, they barely resemble a human being internally, right? Externally, they have these fancy clothes on or, whatever. They're famous people. They slap makeup on trying to hide the inner ugliness, but they've been rewired into such a way that they are completely feeding off, negative stuff like evil, and just, they no longer love and light and joy and these things like repel them. They're like vampires, right? When they feel love, it makes them like cringe inside. They have to go hide away from the light. Like a vampire has to hide away from the light. And those are the people that are on the top of this system, and layers of that. There's people becoming like that on the lower levels of the capstone of the pyramid and working their way up to being these type of ghouls, right? These type of, energetic vampires. And so, this is like where everyone's trying to work their way towards this inhuman condition. And this idea of people who hoard wealth being the ones with the most power and decision making and shaping the policies of the world is why, we're gone in the wrong direction. Because it's not about accruing wealth. It's about enjoying. Most of these people don't enjoy their multiple houses. They have these houses and things and, places right by great areas, right? Beachfront properties and, mountain stuff. We're watching that show, Yellowstone. It's out in Montana, and there's just these great places to live. You'll drive by places, you're like, wow, this is, there's ways that you can't reshape nature. Some mountain areas and valley areas are better than others. Some, beaches are better than others. It's just you can't make them better. You can't enhance them. And these people buy up all those great areas, but they don't enjoy them. They have all these wonderful material things, and they don't enjoy them because there's no real joy in them. They've lost the ability to enjoy their wealth and things like this. And so it's just a real backward system, and taking people away from God, taking people away from what's natural, and creating stress levels because everyone suffers money-related stress. Money is stressful, and the richer you are, the more stress it causes you. Poverty has its stress, but money has even more stress, being rich. There's just this nice sort of sweet spot for everybody. Like you just, where you have what you need for your particular, material needs and things like this. And you just, you're right there, and you just, everything's cool, but that's, very few people want to stay in that spot, right? And then you can focus on your other things, spirituality and, time with the people that you love, and you really enjoy enjoy what you have. So having that sweet spot, finding out what that is and just, living in that, like not getting too much and, being over concerned about it and whatever. And just realizing that things are going to change and just be, open to them changing as the system is collapsing around us, that things might get better when you have less material stress. Like you don't know, maybe you'll love gardening or you'll love having, animals, livestock and things like this. And maybe people will be surprised at the joy of farming and, living out in a more natural way. And they're like, wow, this is so much better than, living in the city and all these things that they thought was, making them happy, but it really wasn't. And then having a deep connection with God and, a deeper relationship with your loved ones and things. And so as the civilization collapses, our system collapses around us. And poverty is waiting for everybody. It's just everyone's going to have a reduction in their, the things that they do and their privileges they have. And so it shouldn't be something that we fear because we don't know what it's going to be like. If you're miserable now, right, like so many people are miserable now, why convince yourself that when everything goes south that it's going to be worse? I mean, in ways it will be, but maybe it'll be better for you. Maybe you'll thrive. Maybe you'll come to life in a way that you weren't alive before. So it's just good to be open, right? It's good to be, have an open mind to what's about to happen because you haven't been through it before and you don't know how you're going to, feel about it when it does. But in some level, people are going to feel relieved and people are going to enjoy some of the things that they have to do that they thought were privileges not to do in the past. Growing food, doing things for yourself. Some of those things are just inherent to every person. There's a homesteader, there's a farmer, there's an agrarian person inside everybody. On a soul level, you've done it in a past existence. And on a genetic level, it's in everybody's system because that's how human beings were designed to live. And there's a level of, aha moments that happen when you start doing things for yourselves that the system has been doing for you for your entire life. And so there's, joy in that. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.